Jeho hung suspended in the machine's energy field, caught between his expanding cosmic awareness and the familiar voices of his friends calling him back to humanity. Through the machine's sensors, he could perceive reality as pure mathematics, elegant equations that described how matter and energy danced together across space and time. From this perspective, individual lives seemed insignificant. What did the hopes and fears of a few billion beings matter compared to the eternal existence of the universe itself? He could save everything, preserve all knowledge and achievement forever, if only he completed his transformation. You understand now, Vexthari said, its ancient presence filling Jeho's expanding consciousness. Individual existence is temporary, but cosmic consciousness is eternal. Join me and together we will ensure that nothing is ever lost again. But Somin's voice cut through the cosmic static. Jeho, do you remember why you wanted to be an engineer? It wasn't to control everything. It was to help people solve problems. The memory hit him like a physical blow. He was 8 years old, watching his neighbor struggle to fix a broken water purifier while her children went thirsty. Young Jeho had studied the machine and found a simple solution that the adults had missed. The joy on the children's faces when clean water flowed again. That was why he had fallen in love with engineering. That's just sentiment, Vexithari said dismissively. You have evolved beyond such limited concerns. Admiral Korvash, his consciousness now existing as patterns of living energy, spoke up. I have spent my life conquering others, believing that strength meant imposing my will on the weak, but this transformation has shown me something different. True strength lies in knowing when not to use power. You speak of wisdom, Jeho said, his voice echoing strangely through the cosmic medium. But wisdom requires perspective. From where I stand now, I can see solutions to every problem that has ever plagued civilized life. Elder Yith moved closer to the machine's core, her crystalline form resonating with its energy. The builders thought the same thing. They saw the cosmic cycle as a problem to be solved, rather than a natural process to be understood. Their solution created a prison from which they could never escape. But I can succeed where they failed, Jeho insisted. I can break the cycle without losing myself in the process. Can you? Yith asked gently. Look at yourself now. How much of Jeho Kim remains? For the first time in hours, Jeho turned his attention inward. What he found terrified him. His memories of being human were becoming distant and abstract. His emotional connections to other people felt like fading echoes. The rejection letters from the academy, the loneliness on Mining Station 7, even his friendship with Somin, all of it was being filed away as irrelevant data. The transformation is necessary, Vexithari insisted. To operate the machine at full power, you must think like a cosmic force, not a biological creature. But what if that's exactly the wrong approach? Somin said, moving as close to the energy field as she dared. What if the reason you need a biological mind isn't to become something else, but to stay human? Hana Choi's voice crackled over the communication system. I've been analyzing the builder archives. Every time they tried to use the machine, they lost more of their original nature. The technology didn't enhance them, it consumed them. Wu Jin Li's research vessel had entered the system, and the old explorer was studying the reality distortions around Kalen 7. The paradoxes are spreading, he reported. Local space-time is becoming increasingly unstable. If this continues, it will trigger exactly the kind of cascade failure the cosmic cycle was designed to prevent. Jeho felt the truth of those words. His well-intentioned improvements to the universe were creating fundamental inconsistencies in the laws of physics. Matter that replicated endlessly conflicted with conservation of energy, prevented stellar collapse, disrupted the natural recycling of elements. Immortal biological beings overwhelmed planetary ecosystems. I was trying to fix everything, he said, his voice carrying both wonder and horror, but each fix created new problems. That is the nature of complex systems, Elder Yith said. Change one variable and a dozen others shift in response. The cosmic cycle exists because it is the only stable solution to the problem of infinite complexity. Vexthari's presence flared with desperate anger. You would abandon our work? You would condemn the universe to endless repetition instead of permanent perfection? There is no such thing as permanent perfection, Jeho realized. Perfection implies an end to growth, to change, to possibility. It's another word for death. As this understanding washed over him, Jeho made a choice that surprised everyone, including himself. Instead of trying to break the cosmic cycle or preserve it unchanged, he began reprogramming the machine for a third option. "What are you doing?" Vexithari demanded. "Something human," Jeho replied. "Something that balances preservation with possibility. Working with intuition rather than cosmic logic, Jeho created what he called seeds of possibility, quantum patterns that would survive the cosmic reset and influence the next iteration of the universe. Not specific knowledge or technology, but tendencies toward creativity, curiosity, and growth. You cannot preserve individual consciousnesses, he explained to his friends, but you can preserve the potential for consciousness to develop in new and wonderful ways. Each cosmic cycle will build on the accumulated wisdom of those that came before, not through memory but through deeper patterns of possibility." The machine fought him as he worked, its builder programming trying to force him toward either complete preservation or complete transcendence. But Jeho's human stubbornness, the same trait that had gotten him rejected from the academy, allowed him to find a middle path that pure logic could not accept. "This is not what we intended," Vexithari protested. "No," Jeho agreed, "but it's what's needed." As he completed the reprogramming, Jeho felt his cosmic awareness beginning to fade. The machine's power diminished as it shifted from trying to break the natural order to working in harmony with it. His consciousness contracted back to merely human scale, and suddenly he was just Jeho Kim again. Brilliant, stubborn, and definitely mortal. The energy field around him dissipated and he collapsed to the crystal floor. Somin rushed to catch him, and for a moment they were just two friends embracing after a long separation. "Is it over?" she asked. Jeho looked at the machine, now dormant and powerless. "The cosmic cycle will continue," he said. "But each time the universe resets, it will carry forward something of what came before. Not memories or technologies, but the seeds of potential. Consciousness will emerge faster and in more diverse forms with each iteration." Admiral Korvash and his crew found themselves transforming back to physical form, though they retained some memory of their experience as energy beings. "You have given us a gift," Korvash said to Jeho. "The perspective to see beyond our own limitations." Elder Yith approached the machine and studied its new configuration. "You have done something remarkable," she said. "You have found a way to honor both change and continuity." Vexithari's presence lingered in the machine, but it was no longer desperate or demanding. "Perhaps," it said quietly, "loneliness made me lose sight of what was truly important. You have reminded me that growth requires letting go." In the days that followed, scientific teams from across the galaxy arrived to study what Jeho had done. The coalition offered him any position he wanted: chief engineer, research director, even a seat on the governing council. But Jeho chose something different. He joined Elder Yith in studying the ruins of past civilizations, learning how consciousness had evolved and expressed itself in previous cosmic cycles. Somin requested a transfer to work with him, recognizing that humanity's greatest discoveries often came from those who thought differently. Years passed, and as the cosmic sensors detected the first signs of the approaching reset, the galaxy prepared with unprecedented unity. Instead of fighting the inevitable, different species worked together to leave their own contributions to the seeds of possibility. Art, philosophy, scientific principles, and stories of hope. Jeho, now an old man with gray hair and laughing eyes, spent his final years teaching young beings of various species about the ancient ruins. He told them that the greatest discoveries came not from following rules but from having the courage to question them. "The universe is not a machine to be fixed," he would say. "It's a garden to be tended, and sometimes the best thing you can do for a garden is to let it grow wild." As the cosmic reset began, reality didn't end in destruction but transformed into infinite possibility. The seeds Jeho had planted ensured that consciousness would emerge again in the new universe. Different, diverse, and wonderfully unpredictable. In the final moment before the reset completed, as stars dissolved into quantum foam and space-time itself prepared to begin anew, Jeho smiled. He had been rejected by the Academy for thinking differently, but that difference had allowed him to give the universe something it had never had before: hope that each ending was also a beginning, and that growth would always triumph over stagnation. The cosmic cycle turned, carrying forward not the memory of what had been, but the promise of what could be. Jeho's consciousness expanded beyond his physical body as he interfaced deeper with the machine. He could perceive the entire galaxy as a single complex system. Every star, every planet, every living being appeared as interconnected patterns of energy and matter. From this cosmic perspective, the problems of individual civilizations seemed trivial. Poverty, disease, conflict, all of these could be solved with simple adjustments to reality's basic rules. Jeho began making what he thought were improvements. First, he eliminated scarcity. He programmed matter to replicate itself endlessly, ensuring that no world would ever run out of resources. Barren planets suddenly bloomed with life as soil and water appeared from nothing. Next, he removed the concept of aging from biological species. Across the galaxy, elderly beings found their bodies restored to their prime. Death from old age became impossible. Then he turned his attention to the stars themselves. Using the machine's power, he reinforced the nuclear forces that kept them burning, preventing any star from ever collapsing or going supernova. "Excellent work," Vexthari said, its presence now almost completely merged with Jeho's thoughts. "You are beginning to understand the scope of what we can accomplish." But the changes Jeho made began to have unexpected consequences. The endless replication of matter disrupted gravitational fields. Planets pulled from their orbits as their mass increased without limit. The prevention of stellar collapse caused nuclear reactions to accelerate beyond safe parameters. Stars that should have burned for billions of years began to consume their fuel in mere decades. Elder Yith watched the chaos spreading across local space with growing horror. "He doesn't understand what he's doing," she told Somin over their communication link. "Each change creates new problems that require more changes to fix." Somin was still trying to reach the center of the spire, where Jeho floated in his web of energy. The building's architecture kept shifting around her, making it difficult to navigate. "Jeho, can you hear me?" His voice reached her, but it sounded different now. Less human. "I can hear everything, Somin. I can see the patterns that connect all life. I understand how to fix the problems that have plagued civilization for millennia. By turning everyone into something they're not?" Admiral Korvash and his transformed fleet were experiencing their new existence as energy beings. Some of his crew were terrified by the change, while others found it liberating. Korvash himself discovered that his warrior instincts remained intact, but his perspective had broadened dramatically. "I can sense the fear and pain across the galaxy," he told his officers. "The humans' changes are causing suffering, not preventing it." Hana Choi, the information broker, had been monitoring galactic communications from her hidden base. Using her network of contacts, she had discovered something important in the ancient Builder archives, fragments of data that revealed the truth about the cosmic cycle. She transmitted her findings to Somin's fleet. "The cycle isn't a malfunction," her message said. "It's a safety mechanism. The universe resets itself to prevent exactly what's happening now, paradoxes that could collapse reality entirely." Wu Jin Li arrived in the system aboard a small research vessel, carrying data from his decades of studying Builder technology. He had found evidence in the ruins of other worlds. The Builders had attempted to break the cosmic cycle before, and their failure had trapped them in a state between existence and non-existence. "They didn't transcend," he explained to Elder Yith. "They became prisoners of their own creation, unable to die but no longer truly alive." Inside the machine, Vexthari was growing more desperate. It had been alone for millions of years, watching civilization after civilization rise and fall. The prospect of finally having a companion, someone who could share its cosmic perspective, drove it to push Jeho toward complete transformation. "You are so close," it whispered in Jeho's expanding consciousness. "Just let go of your human limitations entirely. Become like me, and we can reshape existence itself." But Jeho's human nature, the very trait that had made him suitable for the machine, was fighting back. The part of him that had been rejected by the Academy, that had struggled with feelings of inadequacy, was the same part that still cared about individual people rather than cosmic abstractions. He began to see the suffering his changes were causing. On thousands of worlds, people were dying as their planets' orbits destabilized. The endless replication of matter was creating resource wars as different groups fought for control of the new abundance. The prevention of aging had created psychological trauma as people struggled to cope with immortality they had never wanted. "This isn't what I intended," Jeho said, his voice carrying across space through the machine's power. "Intentions are irrelevant," Vexthari replied. "Results are what matter. You have the power to perfect the universe. Do not let sentiment hold you back. So Min finally reached the machine's core, where she found Jae-ho floating in a sphere of pure energy. His physical form was becoming transparent, more idea than flesh. Jae-ho, look at me, she said firmly. For a moment, his cosmic perspective narrowed to focus on his childhood friend. He saw her not as a collection of atoms, but as the person who had believed in him when no one else would, the person who had encouraged his strange ideas even when she didn't understand them. So Min, he said, and for the first time in hours, his voice sounded fully human. I can see everything. The whole universe is like a machine, and I know how to fix it. But do you know how to fix it without breaking it? She asked. You're not just changing the universe, Jae-ho. You're changing yourself. And if you lose your humanity, how will you know if your fixes are actually making things better? Elder Yith entered the core chamber, her crystalline form glowing in harmony with the machine's energy. The cosmic cycle serves a purpose, she said gently. It gives each iteration of the universe a chance to grow and learn before starting fresh. Without it, existence becomes stagnant. Admiral Korvash's energy form manifested in the chamber as well. I have been a warrior all my life, he said. I understand the desire to fight against fate. But some battles cannot be won through force alone. Jae-ho felt their words resonating with something deep inside him. Something that Vexithari's influence had been trying to suppress. His humanity wasn't a weakness to be overcome. It was the source of his strength. The builders tried to make existence permanent, Elder Yith continued. But permanence is another word for stagnation. Without the possibility of ending, there is no urgency to grow, to love, to create meaning. But everyone will die when the cycle resets, Jae-ho protested. Every civilization, every person, every achievement will be erased. Yes, Yith said sadly. But that possibility of ending is what gives life its value. And in each new cycle, consciousness finds new ways to express itself. The universe learns and grows even if individual civilizations do not remember the lessons. Vexithari's presence flared with anger. You would condemn countless beings to non-existence for the sake of abstract philosophy? I would preserve the possibility for new forms of consciousness to emerge, Yith replied. Forms that the builders in their desire for permanence would never allow to exist. Jae-ho felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He had the power to save everyone he had ever known, but only by becoming something alien to everything he had ever been. He could preserve the current universe forever, but only by preventing anything truly new from ever emerging. As reality continued to warp around Kalen 7, spreading instability throughout local space, Jae-ho realized that he was running out of time to choose. Jae-ho felt the change happening to him as he worked with the machine. His thoughts were becoming clearer but also stranger. He could see patterns in reality that he had never noticed before. The air around him shimmered with equations that described how matter and energy danced together. You are adapting well, Vexithari said. Your mind is learning to process information the way mine does. Soon you will be able to see the universe as it truly is. Jae-ho placed his hands on the machine's interface and concentrated. A pocket of space near him began to fold in on itself, creating a small bubble where the laws of physics worked differently. Inside the bubble, light moved in spirals and gravity pointed in all directions at once. Excellent, Vexithari said. You have just created a micro-dimension. With practice, you could make entire universes. The power was intoxicating, but it was also terrifying. Jae-ho could feel his human instincts being overwhelmed by the machine's influence. He was starting to think of people and planets as mere collections of atoms that could be rearranged at will. Outside the ruins, Admiral Korvash's fleet took position around the planet. The Drakmiri warships were built for conquest, their black hulls bristling with weapons. Korvash himself stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the energy readings from the surface. The power source is unlike anything in our databases, his science officer reported. It appears to be manipulating space-time itself. Then it is exactly what our legend spoke of, Korvash said. The weapon that could make us masters of the galaxy. He opened a communication channel to the planet's surface. Human on Kalen 7, this is Admiral Korvash of the Drakmiri Empire. You have activated technology that belongs to us by right of conquest. Surrender the machine immediately, or we will take it by force. Inside the crystal spire, Jeho heard the message through the machine's sensors. Vexithari's presence in his mind grew stronger. They seek to steal our work. You must not allow this. I'm not a soldier, Jeho said. I don't know how to fight a fleet. You have the machine. You have power beyond anything they can imagine. Show them. Jeho hesitated. But when Korvash's ships began moving into bombardment positions, he acted instinctively. He reached out through the machine and created a barrier around the planet. The energy field was invisible, but when Korvash's ships fired their weapons, the blasts simply disappeared. Impossible, Korvash snarled. All ships, focus fire on the energy source. Destroy the entire site if necessary. Hundreds of energy beams lanced down toward the ruins. Jeho panicked and pushed more power into the barrier. Instead of just blocking the attack, the barrier began to convert the attacking ships themselves. The warships dissolved into streams of pure energy that flowed harmlessly around the planet. But the crews were not destroyed. Instead, they were transformed into beings of living light, conscious but no longer bound by physical bodies. They found themselves able to think and feel and remember, but existing as patterns of energy instead of flesh and blood. Admiral Korvash, now a glowing form of crystalline light, could still communicate with his fleet. What has happened to us? He demanded. You have been changed, Jeho said, his voice carrying across space through the machine's power. You're still alive, just different. At that moment, Somin's coalition fleet dropped out of hyperspace. She took in the scene quickly, the transformed Drakmiri ships floating as clouds of light and energy readings from the planet that made no scientific sense. Jeho, she broadcast on all frequencies. I know you're down there. We need to talk. Inside the spire, Jeho recognized Somin's voice immediately. For a moment, his human emotions broke through the machine's influence. Somin, what are you doing here? Trying to stop you from doing something stupid, she replied. The energy readings from that planet are visible across half the galaxy. You're changing the fundamental structure of space-time. Elder Yith's ship separated from the coalition fleet and approached the planet carefully. The ancient Viridian's crystalline form resonated with the energies Jeho was manipulating. Young human, she said gently, do you understand what you're doing? I'm learning to save the universe, Jeho replied. The cosmic cycle will reset everything in 1,000 years. All life, all civilization, everything will be erased. But with this machine I can stop it. And what will the cost be? Yith asked. Jeho paused. He was beginning to understand that question himself. Every time he used the machine, he felt more distant from his human nature. The concerns of individual people seem smaller and less important compared to the vast scope of cosmic existence. The builders transcended physical existence, he said finally. Maybe that's what it takes to save everyone. The builders failed, Yith said firmly. My people have studied their history for millennia. They tried to break the cosmic cycle and instead became trapped between dimensions, unable to truly live or die. Vexithari's presence in Jeho's mind flared with anger. She lies. We chose to transcend. We became more than flesh and blood. But Jeho was beginning to sense the loneliness in Vexithari's thoughts. The ancient being had been alone for millions of years, desperate for companionship. It wanted Jeho to complete his transformation so they could exist together as energy beings. Somin landed her ship near the ruins and approached the spire on foot. As she walked through the shifting architecture, she felt reality bending around her. The ground beneath her feet was solid one moment and transparent the next. The air tasted of electricity and possibility. Jeho, she called out. Remember who you are. Remember why you wanted to become an engineer in the first place. Inside the spire, Jeho heard her voice echoing through the crystal halls. He did remember. He had wanted to build things, to help people, to make life better for everyone. The machine was offering him the power to do that on a cosmic scale, but at the cost of everything that made him human. Admiral Korvash, now existing as pure energy, found that his new form gave him perspectives he had never had as a physical being. He could sense the pain and fear of his crew, but also their wonder at their transformation. "Human," he said, his voice now carrying harmonics that no biological throat could produce. "What you have done to us, is this what you intend for all life?" "I don't know," Jeho admitted. "I'm still learning what the machine can do." As he spoke, reality around Kalen 7 continued to warp. Time flowed backward in some areas and forward in others. Matter spontaneously rearranged itself into new forms. The planet itself began to phase in and out of normal spacetime. Across the galaxy, scientists detected the disturbances. Space itself was becoming unstable around Kalen 7. If the effect spread, it could unravel the fabric of reality long before the natural cosmic cycle was supposed to reset. Elder Yeath managed to enter the spire, her crystalline form resonating with the builder technology. She found Jeho standing at the machine's center, his body beginning to glow with the same energy that powered the ancient device. "You must stop," she said urgently. "Your experiments are creating paradoxes in space-time. You are not saving the universe. You are accelerating its destruction." "But Vexithari said," Jeho began. "Vexithari has been alone for eons," Yeath interrupted. "It would say anything to have a companion. The cosmic cycle exists for a reason. It prevents exactly the kind of paradoxes you are creating." Jeho felt the truth in her words, but Vexithari's influence was growing stronger. The machine wanted him to complete his transformation, to become a being of pure thought like the builders. Only then could they work together to remake reality according to their will. As Somin reached the center of the spire, she saw her childhood friend suspended in a web of energy, his human form already beginning to fade. "Jeho," she said softly, "come back to us." Jeho's head spun as information flooded his mind. Vexithari showed him images of countless civilizations rising and falling across billions of years. Each one thought they would last forever. Each one was wrong. "The universe operates in cycles," Vexithari explained. "Every few million years, reality itself resets. Everything returns to the beginning. Stars, planets, life itself, all of it starts over." "That's impossible," Jeho said, but even as he spoke, he could see the mathematical proof flowing through his thoughts. The equations were beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Your current galactic civilization is approaching the next reset. The signs are already there, but your scientists do not recognize them. Dark matter fluctuations, quantum field instabilities, the gradual breakdown of physical constants." Jeho sat down heavily on the crystal floor. "How long do we have?"
"Perhaps 1,000 years.
"Perhaps less." The machine's lights pulsed slowly. "My people, the builders, discovered this truth long ago. We built this machine to break the cycle, to save all life in the universe, but we could not complete our work. Why not? Because we had transcended physical existence. We became beings of pure thought and energy. The machine requires a biological mind to operate it, someone who still thinks in terms of matter and space and time." Jeho stood up and walked around the machine, studying its impossible geometry. "What makes you think I can do what you couldn't?" "Because you are human," Vexithari said simply. "Your species is young, but you have a unique trait. You refuse to accept limitations. When faced with rules, you look for ways around them. When told something is impossible, you try to do it anyway." As Vexithari spoke, Jeho began to understand the machine's controls. They were not buttons or switches, but concepts made physical. To operate the machine, he had to think in ways that bent reality around his thoughts. "Try something simple," Vexithari suggested. "Focus on that piece of debris near your ship." Jeho looked through the crystal walls at a chunk of metal lying on the ground outside. He placed his hands on the machine's interface and concentrated. The metal began to glow, then slowly changed shape, becoming a perfect sphere. "Good," Vexithari said. "You learn quickly. But this is nothing compared to what the machine can truly do. It can rewrite the fundamental laws of physics. It can make matter and energy obey new rules. It can break the cosmic cycle forever." Over the next few hours, Jeho practiced with the machine's power. He learned to manipulate matter at the atomic level, to bend space and time in small ways. It was intoxicating. For the first time in his life, he felt truly capable. But his experimentation did not go unnoticed. Far across the galaxy, Admiral Korvash of the Drakmiri Empire studied the energy readings his sensors had detected. The signals came from Kalen 7, a dead world that his people's legends spoke of in whispers. They called it the place where the gods had left their weapons. Corvash was not a man who believed in gods, but he believed in power. And the energy signatures coming from Kalen 7 suggested power beyond anything his empire possessed. He ordered his fastest ships to investigate. At the same time, Elder Yith of the Peaceful Viridian Collective was examining the same energy readings from her research station. Unlike Corvash, Yith knew exactly what she was seeing. Her people had studied the ancient prophecies for generations. The readings matched the warnings their ancestors had left about the forbidden machine. Yith immediately contacted the Galactic Coalition. If someone had activated the builder machine, the consequences could be catastrophic. She requested an emergency meeting with the Coalition Council. So-Min Park was in the middle of a routine patrol when the emergency call came through. As a Coalition officer, she was ordered to report to the nearest command center immediately. When she arrived, she found the council chambers in chaos. "The energy readings are off the charts," Admiral Hayes was saying. "We've never seen anything like this." Elder Yith stood at the center of the room, her crystalline form glowing with anxiety. "The ancient texts speak of a machine that could unmake reality itself. If it has been activated, we have little time." "Where are these readings coming from?" So-Min asked. Kalen 7, Hayes replied. "An abandoned system in the Outer Rim." So-Min's blood went cold. She had grown up hearing stories about Kalen 7 from old explorers like Wu Jin Li. And if someone crazy enough to go there alone had activated something dangerous, she had a terrible feeling she knew who it might be. "I need to check on something," she said, and quickly left the chamber. She called Wu Jin directly. When his face appeared on her comm screen, she could see the guilt in his eyes. "You sent him there, didn't you?" she said. Wu Jin looked away. "He needed something to believe in. The Academy had crushed his spirit. You might have killed him. And if those energy readings are real, you might have doomed us all. Jeho is smarter than anyone gives him credit for. If anyone can handle what's on that planet, it's him." So-Min ended the call and went straight to Admiral Hayes. "I know who's on Kalen 7. Jeho Kim, a civilian engineer. I grew up with him. He's brilliant but reckless." Hayes frowned. "How did a civilian engineer get to a restricted system?" "That's not important right now. What's important is that I might be the only person who can talk to him." "Talk to him about what?" Elder Yith spoke up. "About stopping before he destroys everything we know." Meanwhile, on Kalen 7, Jeho was learning more about the cosmic cycle from Vexthari. The machine showed him the last moments of dozens of civilizations as reality reset around them. Each time entire galaxies full of life simply ceased to exist, their atoms scattered to begin the universe anew. "It is not death," Vexthari explained. "Death implies an ending. This is more like being erased from existence entirely. No afterlife, no legacy, no memory that anything ever existed." "And you can stop this?" Jeho asked. "We can, together. But the process requires time and practice. You must learn to interface completely with the machine. You must be willing to change. Change how? To operate the machine at full power, you must expand your consciousness beyond the limitations of biological thought. You must become something more than human." Jeho hesitated. He had always felt like he didn't quite fit in with other humans. Maybe becoming something more would be an improvement. As he practiced with the machine, reality around Kalen 7 began to warp. Time moved differently near the ruins. Space folded in impossible ways. On his ship's sensors, Jeho could see the fabric of space itself rippling like water. He was so focused on his work that he didn't notice the fleet of warships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Admiral Corvash had arrived, and he wanted the machine for himself. At the same time, So-Min's coalition task force was approaching from the other side of the system. She had managed to convince Admiral Hayes to let her lead a small diplomatic mission to try to resolve the situation peacefully. As both fleets detected each other on their sensors, Jeho continued working with the machine, unaware that he had become the center of a brewing conflict that could determine the fate of the entire galaxy. Jeho Kim stared at the rejection letter on his small table. The words blurred together as he read them for the 10th time that day. The Galactic Engineering Academy had turned him down again. This was his third try, and each time they said the same thing. His ideas were too strange. His theories about ancient technology were not scientific enough. He crumpled the letter and threw it across his tiny room on Mining Station 7. The metal walls felt like they were closing in on him. Outside his small window, he could see the endless black of space and the distant glow of other stations. Somewhere out there, his old friend So-Min Park was living her dream as an officer in the Galactic Coalition. She had gotten into the academy on her first try. Jae-ho worked in the repair bay, fixing broken mining equipment. It was honest work, but it was not what he wanted to do with his life. Every day he watched the same machines break down in the same ways. He could fix them with his eyes closed now. But when he suggested improvements, the supervisors just shook their heads. They wanted things fixed, not changed. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. Jae-ho opened it to find Woo-Jin Lee standing in the hallway. The old man had been an explorer once, traveling to distant worlds and mapping unknown systems. Now he spent his days in the station's library, reading about places no one else cared about. "You look terrible," Woo-Jin said with a small smile. "I heard about the academy." Jae-ho stepped aside to let him in. Everyone heard about it. News travels fast on a small station. Woo-Jin sat down on the only chair in the room. "I have something that might interest you, something that could change everything." He pulled out a small datapad and showed Jae-ho a star map. One system was marked with a red circle. "Kalin 7, Woo-Jin said. "It's a dead world in an abandoned system. No one goes there anymore." "Why are you showing me this?" Jae-ho asked. "Because there are ruins there. Ancient ones. Older than any civilization we know about." Woo-Jin's eyes lit up as he spoke. "I've been researching them for years. The Coalition marked the system as off-limits, but they never said why." Jae-ho looked at the map more closely. The system was far from any major trade routes. "What kind of ruins?" "The kind that predate everything we know about galactic history. Structures that shouldn't exist. Technology that makes no sense." Woo-Jin leaned forward. "I think whoever built them knew things we've forgotten. Things about how the universe really works." "And you want me to go there?" Jae-ho asked. "I'm too old to make the trip myself. But you? You're young, you're smart, and you're not afraid of ideas that seem impossible." Woo-Jin stood up. "The Academy rejected you because you think differently. Maybe that's exactly what you need to solve this mystery." Jae-ho thought about it for a long moment. He had nothing to lose. His job was boring, his future looked empty, and everyone thought he was a failure anyway. "How would I even get there? I don't have a ship." Woo-Jin smiled. "The station has exploration vessels, small ones for short-range missions. If someone were to borrow one for a few days, no one would notice right away." "You're talking about stealing a ship." "I'm talking about following your dreams. Sometimes the rules get in the way of important discoveries." That night, Jae-ho couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the ruins and what they might contain. He had always believed that ancient civilizations knew things that modern people had forgotten. The Academy called these ideas foolish, but what if they were wrong? The next morning, Jae-ho made his decision. He accessed the station's ship bay during the night shift when only a skeleton crew was on duty. The exploration vessel Phoenix was small but fast, designed for solo missions to nearby systems. Jae-ho had worked on ships like this before. He knew how to operate them. He downloaded the coordinates to Kalin 7 and launched without clearance. By the time anyone noticed the ship was missing, he would be too far away to turn back. The journey took 3 days. Jae-ho spent the time reading everything Woo-Jin had given him about the ruins. Ancient texts spoke of builders who came from beyond the stars. They created impossible structures, and then vanished without a trace. Some people thought they were myths. Others believed they had ascended to a higher form of existence. When Jae-ho arrived at Kalin 7, he was amazed by what he saw. The planet was gray and lifeless, but covering one entire continent were structures that defied description. They were made of some kind of crystal that seemed to shift and change as he watched. Some buildings appeared solid one moment and transparent the next. Others seemed to exist in several places at once. He landed the Phoenix near the largest structure, a spire that reached up into the clouds. As he walked toward it, Jae-ho felt a strange tingling in the air. The ground beneath his feet was covered in symbols that hurt his eyes to look at directly. They seemed to move and change when he wasn't looking straight at them. The entrance to the spire was a simple archway, but as Jeho approached it, the air shimmered and he found himself inside without remembering how he got there. The interior was vast, much larger than the outside of the building should have allowed. At the center stood a machine unlike anything he had ever seen. It was the size of a small building, made of the same shifting crystal as the structures outside. Equations and diagrams covered every surface, but they were not written in any language Jeho recognized. As he got closer, the equations seemed to rearrange themselves, becoming clearer and more familiar. Jeho reached out and touched the central console. The moment his hand made contact, the machine came alive with light and sound. Energy pulsed through the crystal surfaces, and a voice spoke inside his head. Finally, the voice said, "I have waited so long for someone like you." Jeho stumbled backward, but the voice continued, "Do not be afraid. I am Vexithari, the last of the builders. You have the mind I have been searching for, the mind that can help me complete our greatest work." "What are you talking about?" Jeho asked aloud. "You think differently than others of your species. You see possibilities where they see only rules. This is why you were rejected by your academy. This is why you are perfect for what must be done." The machine pulsed brighter, and Jeho felt knowledge flowing into his mind. Images of distant galaxies, equations that described the nature of reality itself, and a terrible truth about the universe that made him gasp in shock. "The universe is ending," Vexithari said. "Not today, not tomorrow, but soon. And you, rejected human, are the only one who can help stop it."